Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Parks and Travel podcast, covering parks, public lands, and historic landmarks across America and around the world. Hey, everybody, welcome. Today, we're very excited to chat with Don. Don Hafner and his wife, Shelly, have traveled extensively in regards to our wonderful national parks. And in fact, they're known on Twitter at 59 National Parks. So that's the number 59 National Parks. And also you can find them on Instagram. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean Twitter, X. X marks the spot, right? And they made it official the other day where suddenly that's it. It's x.com. So, but you can still do twitter.com. But they run a wonderful park chat. So he's going to tell us all about that and also their travels. And Don is based out of Veneta, Oklahoma, which we're very excited about because it is also part of the historic Jefferson Highway. And that's what we cover on our fourth Thursday show every month, at 6 p.m. Central Time. And Oklahoma's our next show on that. So welcome, Don. How are you?
I'm doing well, Lisa, and very excited to be here. Thanks so much for the invitation.
Hey, I'm glad. You know, you're talking to me about Park Chat, and you and I have connected a few times over the years and finally getting it done this year. It's like the year
That's right.
of making things
That's
happen.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been chasing you for 10 years now.
Is it really? Well, it's funny because I think we all kind of started on Twitter a little bit more than Facebook and stuff, right? Twitter was kind of like this, just, you could connect with everyone. And I'm hoping it still stays. Do you feel any changes there, or do you still prefer it, or do you like Instagram more?
I really like the way that the X app works. I really do. And I'm going to be careful here, but the new ownership has certainly made it tougher to run the chat the way that we used to run it. I'll say that much. But
yeah,
we're going to continue, and there's going to be a park chat even if we have to move.
Tell
we have
everybody
plans just in case.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You have to in this industry. I mean, when we started our podcast, I was thinking today it was about, I think we're on our 16th or 17th year. And we started a blog talk, and we had to move platforms, and it was growth and change, and places change ownership. That's exactly what it is. And this whole geek world is how I'm going to call it. It's just like every time you wake up, you think you've got everything ironed out, and they're like, no, now we're going to change something.
Change everything.
I know. You go on PayPal even. Nancy was complaining today. She's like, everything's moved again. Like everything's changed on PayPal, you know? Right. So there's a common owner of time. Yeah. But the one thing that does change also is nature. We're dealing with that in our parks with climate change. But going to nature, I think that's one of the places we do need to go to kind of, here's all this geek world. Do going to national parks, does that kind of center you as a human being? You just kind of like, okay, we can forget that stuff for a while and embrace nature.
I told you that I did no preparation, but I was actually thinking about that exact thing that you just said. So, one thing I noticed right away about the parks when people go there is they really do tend to put their workaday and daily lives behind them for whatever time they're there. And how do I know that? Well, when you meet people, for the most part, the first thing you ask them, what do you do? What do you do for a living? But I don't run into that in the parks. When you first meet somebody at a park, they talk about what they've done and what they've seen and what they've experienced. And the whole work thing just doesn't come up. And they're anxious to tell you about something that they saw that you might want to go see yourself. So I think that's so healthy to get away from your routine. And for some people, it's a grind that they just are forced to do to get away from that. So absolutely, it's a relief. I think it's good for your health.
I really agree. And it's true about that. When you meet people on trails, some people don't talk to you. They're in their zone, and I'm fine with that. That's whatever your experience you want it to be, But most of the time, you'll be coming down from some trail and people are like, are we going to make it? What's on the other side? Is it worth continuing? Like if they're, sometimes those trails, what you think and what you get yourself into are two other things. And that's what we see a lot. It's like, okay, but, it is about like, hey, I just saw this over here, like you're saying, like, be careful, there's a bear, or,
Right.
that kind of, honestly, and people kind of, because I think it takes us out of our comfort zones, we tend to be nicer out in parks because we have to stick together, just
Right.
saying. Yeah. I mean, if someone's having a hard time on a trail, we help, you know, um, you really do. But nature just reminds us to be in awe of life. And when you look at what's happening in the news, go back to nature, man. It's so much easier. And it just teaches us so much. But what was your journey? I mean, you and Shelly, what got you guys started of like, we're going to start traveling parks? Because 59, there's more than 59. Don't you get that all the time? Like people like, I think it was like
Well, there is
392
now
parks. Now it's all changed. I can't keep up with the numbers, you know?
428 is the correct number. So
Ah,
those that are
cool.
designated as national parks, when we began our journey, there was 58, or when we first started talking about it, and they added a 59th before we got going. So that 59 means 59 designated national parks, not national monuments, not
Hmm.
national battlefields, national
Seashores.
memorials, just yes, all those designations. 59 national parks. That's how many there were at the time. Right now there's 63, and I'm one
And
short.
yeah. Oh, okay. What's the one that you're short on?
uh, Indiana Dunes,
Okay,
Indiana
cool.
Dunes National Park. Yeah, in Indiana. We're going to fix that this year.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Because yeah, one of our travel writer friends, Debbie is on our show all the time, went there, and she was like, people um, start rating national parks like they do Google reviews, like it's weird. And some people didn't think it should be a national park. And when I was looking at, she went in the fall, so the water was so blue, and then you had the fall colors, and then you had the sand as this like in between zone. The colors were incredible, and she loved it. She absolutely adored it. And she was just like, what people say, I don't know what they expect, but it's beautiful. I think everybody expects every park to be Yellowstone, but every park has some reason why it's being protected at the highest level, which is national park status. I mean,
Yes.
how do you feel about all this rating of parks?
All the what? I'm
The
sorry.
rating, like rating, we're like 5 stars, 4 stars, and this and that. I mean, our parks are underfunded as always. Um, so I mean, it's kind of,
I
I don't know. It's just, I think it's a personal, it's like art.
Well, people are going to do what people are going to do, but I don't rate them. The most
No,
common question we got and still get is, what was your favorite?
yeah,
And
that's what
we
we
try to
get.
take them for just what they are. And why did they get there? Those backstories are really interesting, and how they became national parks.
Yeah.
Very worth. There's books written about just that topic.
Hmm.
Can we go back to the question you asked me, how this all began?
Yeah. Yeah. But I do want to just say that you're really right. When you go in, I encourage people when they go to nps.gov, look in their library section and things like that. They have stories about people. They have stories about the nature and the wildlife and everything. But the people, when you start reading about how these parks were, I mean, it's huge endeavors of people and communities getting together to make this happen because this is federal land. And I mean, you're really, really right about that. And I respect everybody that's ever fought for them. I think NPCA, the National Parks Conservation Association, is huge about that. And
Hmm.
they've done such a good
Right.
job. And that's part of how we ended up doing this was all the interviews we did with them and on all kinds of reasons. And eventually we're like, well, let's just go. So, but yours, yeah, tell us your story of why. Just, yeah.
Well, in 2013, my wife and I, we had gone to, up to that point at different times, not all in the same year. We'd gone to probably 12 national parks, and when we went on vacation, that's usually what we selected, was to go to something where you could enjoy the outdoors. And it's May, so it was this time of year, and we were watching a baseball game on TV, and it was very comfortable in the house. The air conditioning was going on, and they had a TV commercial. And it was this guy and his son and his father, and they were driving around in an Airstream trailer, and their goal was to go to every national park in the United States. Just a commercial. Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, you can't go to all of them in an Airstream, but I said, I wonder how many there are, because I had no idea. And so I got out my phone and I looked, and there were 58. And I'm like, we should do that. And she said something like, maybe with another word added, she said, yeah, right. That was the end of it. But then a couple of months later, we had a vacation planned to South Dakota, which is where we used to live. In fact, I went to college there. And, we went to the Badlands, and we went to the Wind Cave Park and all the other attractions. This is really where we want to be. And I made that suggestion to her again, and she said, well, see how we could do it. Well, it was way more complicated and way more expensive than I anticipated, because you had to go to American Samoa, you had to go to the Virgin Islands, you had to go to 8 national parks in Alaska, you had to go to Hawaii, you had to go everywhere. You had to go south of the equator and north of the Arctic Circle, and 9 time zones to get to do it. And so I thought, well, we're going to do a website, and we're going to write blogs, and we're going to take photos. And when she consented to that expense, I knew we were going to do it. And the guy who helped me design the website, he said I needed to get on Twitter. So that's how I got here. And one thing led to another, and by April 1st of 2014, we left, and we went to first Hot Springs National Park, quite on purpose, because that was the first land laid in reserve for recreation. Yep. And that's also when the first park chat occurred on April 1st, 2014. So we've been
on
doing
April Fool's Day. That's great. I love that, because that's funny. That's funny, because Hot Springs, now it's with Spa City America, Spa, the American Spa, it's amazing. And it's actually really beautiful in the history. The history in Hot Springs is insane. It's so cool and fascinating with the mob and all of that, and the Native American history. And there's just so much, but it was arguably the first national park, but Yellowstone gets that claim, but it was actually the first one. So I say the mob did it. Just kidding. But our mob for you to do park chat on April Fool's Day in what was supposed to be the first national park and designated, that's pretty funny. That's I like that. I like that kind of.
And we did it we had terrible internet at the RV park we were at, so I did it in a McDonald's.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do. Hey, that's a start.
Yeah.
So when do you do park chats? So let everybody know how they can, connect and how it works.
So we do park chat every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. It lasts for an hour. We're good if you just want to come for 5 minutes. We ask 11 questions, one every 5 minutes. It goes very quickly. People comment on all the time because they're interested in the topics. That went by fast. It's very G-rated. We don't talk politics. We just focus on whatever our topic is for that night. And we have probably probably 5 times a year we don't have a guest. 5 to 7, we don't have a guest host, but
Okay.
otherwise we do.
That's
Otherwise we
cool.
do, and you meet a lot of people. We meet each other in person. We have what are called tweet ups, and I've done that all over the country.
That's
Meeting
cool.
somebody on Park Chat, and we have the full support of the National Park Service.
That's
They do
awesome.
one chat a year. Yeah,
Oh, that's
that's how I get.
fantastic.
That's how I get people to come on.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I
oh,
think
I'm
it's
going to tell the
fantastic.
National Park Service you said no.
Yeah, yeah, right. No, but I think that's an important because it has to have a conversation and there's no stopping. I mean, we cover all parks and all of them now. We started off doing just saying we're going to do the national park units. So, and even that was an education, even in the communities we were going to, depending on, who, what, and where. And then it just was like the forest. We were like in Sequoia National Park and Kings Canyon. And because we also do a lot of tourism work and do the stories of the towns, because we're very focused on connecting the communities and the parks. And, because it helps the protection of the parks and there is a shared history over the years of that. And when we're a traveler, we are part of all of us as travelers to these parks, we are kind of a temporary part of the community. And I think the more we look at ourselves that way, the better stewards we are to the place we're going to, the better we are as travelers, the kinder on the land, and to understand the preservation and all the historic sites. To connect to the community is important. That's our focus on it. And
Yes.
remember, we did Sequoia and Kings Canyon, and we also went to Sequoia National Forest, which was really important, Giant Sequoia National Monument. And it's all interwoven, as you know. And we were out with the Sequoia National Forest rangers and seeing that they were also very underfunded at the time. Like they weren't even able to get the campground money. It was overflowing with people paying their little fees in those little boxes. That's how it was. And we're looking at each other. This time we weren't on the road full time. And this was kind of adding up to us like, oh man, once you're in, you're in, you know? And so they gave us a rough time. They literally gave us a rough time. Like, why them? We're federal. We need funding too. And then we talked to a National Wildlife Refuge outside where we were living in Tucson in Buenos Aires National Wildlife Refuge. And they're going, well, what about us? We really need funding. And then we're like,
right.
Well, now we do everything from a pocket park in a community because you know what? Every piece of land matters. And it's the land and it's the stories and it's the history. It's the recreation. It's what you were talking about that, people need it. We need it. Everything. And as you travel, you start to realize that. I mean, do you travel to places that are parks outside of actual national parks, other kind of parks?
Oh, sure. We've camped at state parks, of course.
Mm-hmm.
We really like the Corps of Engineer facilities when we get a chance to stay there. But we found some of the best bargains to be at city parks that have camping. But yeah, we'll say anyway. We've done some dispersed camping, not a lot, but we do that occasionally. Yep.
That's mostly BLM land, right? A lot of that would be BLM land, Bureau of Land Management land.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
So you're doing this in an RV. So we don't do an RV because nobody wants to see me try to drive one because that's like, but no, we pet sit as we go now. That kind of happened in COVID. Like we do our park thing, maybe get a hotel or stay bed and breakfast. We love bed and breakfast because they're small business, So we're really big on that and independent owned. And a lot of the chains are independently owned, right? And motels because I don't have to unload the whole car. I want the car next to the door so I can yell at anybody going towards my car, So it's a thing, but the RV thing, I have so many friends doing it and getting into it. And I know a huge part of our audience does it. And I talk a little bit about that and getting into RVs because that is, I think it's pretty cool, and it's changed over the years. Like you can have a little bit more internet, right? And depending on where, because the RV park could be in the most pristine place in the world, but the internet facilities just haven't come. But then there's things like Starlink. So I think in the last 4 years, we're a little bit 4 or 5 years, we're better than what we were when we all started this journey.
So RV travel is extremely popular, and one of the reasons for that is that you can take your pets.
Mm.
That's a large part of why people do it, because pets are so expensive to take on the road in a hotel or bed and breakfast, if they're allowed at all. So that's one of the drivers, and that's also a big part of the social scene at an RV park. Is you want to meet people, just go walk your dog. And people will call you over. What kind of dog is that? Then the next thing you know, you want to have a drink, you want to play some cards, something like that. So we met so many people that way. We thought we did it, and we were mistaken. We did it because we thought it would be cheaper than staying at the Hilton, which was our favorite place to stay.
I'm getting the giggles because I have a friend going through this right now. It's having a little bit of a learning curve. Yeah, because things keep happening.
It's not cheaper. The only way it's cheaper is you can make your own meals instead of going out to eat all the time. Otherwise, you've got maintenance, you've got gasoline, et cetera, et cetera. And RV parks have gone, like everything else, I guess, way up in parks. But to be able to be close or inside the parks, have that privacy and that ability to have your pets with you, because we took both of our dogs, is the driver behind it. It really is.
Any tips on that? Because I know national parks, a lot of times you can't take your dogs out on trails and things. Any tips on, traveling with pets? I mean, we take care of the pets when people don't travel with pets. And I think what you're saying about RVs is a little bit better than, don't kennel your animals, man. That's just so cruel. Especially if they're a rescue dog. It's so,
right.
Like, it's mean.
No, take them
Honestly, you either take them with you or keep them at home and have a pet sitter that's staying in your home. When we first started, we had a pet sitter, and they'd come in and give our cat, like, here's kibble. Oh yeah, the cat came out and played. And I'm like, I know my cat. No, she didn't. I can guarantee you she didn't. She looked at you as, you're a moron coming into my house, thinking the
intruder.
Food, because but our cat really did look at everybody like they're morons. And then it'll take you a few weeks, and then all of a sudden she decides you're the best thing on the planet. So she had that kind of personality, but and the pet sitter was fine and great. But it's what we do is we stay in people's homes and work, and yes, we can eat food and make a meal. So it's great. But we notice that animals have that routine. And so it's really great. So being in an RV where it's still part of that family unit, it's different, but you're there with them. I can see that working a lot better than taking your animals and putting them in a kennel, really, or paying someone like $1 gazillion. You know how much it costs to have a pet sitter? Like a regular pet sitter to come. We don't do it for money. We do it through Trusted House Sitters. We don't do it for money at all. It's a trade. We get to have good internet and work. That's the thing. And we love animals. I mean, that's the one thing we really missed on the road was the animal factor. If we saw anybody with a dog or anything, we're like, oh, can we play with them? we miss them, So the RV thing, any tips for people? Because, maybe getting your dogs acclimated. I mean, I think every animal's different. So some dogs may not be good at it. Some cats, definitely. Some cats I know live in them perfectly happy. They have their own drawer and things, but, any tips?
Well, my first tip is going to be a cat is not a good idea in an RV, because it's going to ruin your resale value.
There you go. That's a good one. That's some hardcore advice.
Serious.
That's serious, yeah.
With the dogs, our two dogs adapted to it very quickly. they knew which RV was their home almost immediately, and wanted to go to it. They'd go to the door. Take them on the trails when you can, when that's appropriate. We thought it was okay to leave them in the RV because we'd leave the heat or the air conditioner on, but we didn't like to do that for long periods of time, like someone might do in a kennel, leave them in there while they're at work or something. Just do the normal stuff that you do with the dog, because you can do it. It's effectively your home for that week or month or however long you're going to be there. I think most dogs particularly adapted to it pretty well. Never tried a cat. We didn't have a cat at the time. Do now. Don't hold that against me that I didn't have a cat.
No, I love cats and I love dogs. We've had dogs,
we do
cats,
too.
Everything. We had horses, all of it. We've been there, done that, but then there's always something new, right? There's always something that crops up. Our pet sitting journey is taking us from donkeys and pigs to giant tortoises and guinea pigs, bunnies. I mean, fish, raccoons, chipmunks, like actual people feeding feral animals that they're backyard animals that are injured and things, taking care of them.
Right.
So and I love that. Possums, fox.
Possums.
I know, but hey, listen, they eat ticks. So that's a good thing.
I know they do. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, they're interesting. But now, okay, I want to go back to parks. Not only have you traveled this country, but also globally. So what was the most recent international experience for you?
One that had parks was Australia, the West Coast, around Perth.
Ooh.
Australia has, they call them all national parks. They don't draw any distinctions. They have more than 500. And Perth was a city of 2.5 million people. But if you got far out of town at all, you were in the outback. Some of the most remote places I've ever been in my life were in Australia, and it was a very interesting country. I wish I had the ability and the interest going back because of the 22-hour plane ride. But
that's rough.
We were so glad that we went there. We've been to, I think we went to 4 or 5. One was a cave, one was a mountain drive, and then the beaches. Pristine places that you would have all to yourself, and without having to work nearly as hard as you have to work in the United States to get somewhere where you're just by yourself. And the wildlife, it's like, wow, there's a kangaroo, or
that's
there's
cool,
an emu.
Man.
It really was.
What was it like for you to travel? Because when you started, this was 59 national parks in 59 weeks, right? So you had that deadline. And I remember when we started, people would call us up saying, you can't do this. We said 5 years. We're going to be on the road for 5 years, which of course didn't happen. We're still traveling. We stopped for a couple of years because we had to redo all our websites and actual business stuff. We just had to stop. So we got an apartment because we knew there's no way in hell we'll stay in an apartment, because we'll start gardening and things, right? And getting animals and rescues and all of that. And so, but we did get, we of course had a patio garden and all of that, but we needed, we knew we really wanted to do this. And we did this on the road. We were on the road in South Africa with Nancy, my mom's paintings. We went to every park, and she was on tour for a year, supposedly. And she was, paint in public, and then paintings, whatever paintings she sold or commissions, she was raising funds for the Cancer Association. And she homeschooled me. So I was a true Rhodes Scholar, not the Rhodes Scholar, but I was a Rhodes Scholar. That's what got me into history and parks. And nature is always part of my life, but the history, that's what got me, was actually being there as a kid, understanding what I was seeing in school books that they made completely boring for me until I was actually there. Then it became stories and alive, and these were real people. What is a battle? How do you understand a battle until you can go to a battlefield, things like that. So it's interesting because she was supposed to do it for a year. I think it landed, we did it for 2.5 years. I mean, obviously this is just we're not in, I don't know. Everyone's like, you guys are getting older, but you don't seem it. And you're still going. I'm like, yeah, we're not stopping until we die. I mean, that's when we get to sleep. So how is it to go from like this, you're going to do it in 59 weeks to suddenly now being able to do what you want to do when? I mean, is there a difference for you in travel and like, I mean, did you feel an urgency with that 59-week kind of like you have to do it within this time? We only said 5 years to make people not think we were crazy, that we are coming home. This is just a big project, but it's a lifelong one. Um, but how was that
Well,
going 59 and
that
59?
that 59 week was primarily dictated by the budget.
Oh,
We had
okay.
to
Yeah.
get in
Yeah.
and get out, and we knew we'd have to go back to work. But you asked
Okay.
me what it was like, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, but it was a grind.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so let me give you an idea of what our routine was. Let's say we were at Yellowstone National Park. Well, we're going to get up very early. We're going to go into the park early in the morning, beat the crowd, get the sunrise if we got up early enough, take the photographs we want to take. About 10 o'clock, the kids are awake. Well, we're going to leave. Then go back to the camper. We're going to give the dogs a break. And then we're going to go back out because by 4, those kids are tired. By 4, they want to go to West Yellowstone. They want to go back to town. We're going to go back and get all the great photographs without the crowds. And so we get back to the RV at 9, 10 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to process photos, and I may or may not write a blog before we go to bed. And you knew as soon as that was done, if you had six nights in Yellowstone, you knew you were immediately going to go somewhere else.
Yep.
You weren't going to take a break, and you were just going to do that consistently. And I remember people gave me a hard time because kind of in the middle, we took a vacation. And people said, from what?
Yeah. See, that's what people think. That's what people think about us. You guys have this
Yeah,
ideal life, and we do. And we always say, like, when you are in the park and you're having that pristine moment, like, soak it up and really breathe it in. Make that memory in your head, burn it in your brain, in your heart and your soul, because it's a scramble. We do a lot of tourism work and they have like these fam trips, media trips, and it's like whirlwind. And yeah, you get a taste of the place, but I'm a rabbit hole person, but I want to go, I could live anywhere and never be bored kind of person. So this is a
right.
very dangerous thing. But you do the driving, you were saying about doing the blog. I mean, that's because you can't just throw it up there. You know what I mean? You're
Right.
thinking and it's so real when you're there too, that when you were writing, did you ever go, but then there's this, but then there's that? Like, how do I focus on one thing? You know, so
I
hard.
focus. I focus on something that happened in the park. Um, uh, for example, going back to Yellowstone, there was a time we were driving late at night, and I almost ran into a bison. And
Dang.
so the blog was about not that experience, but I spun it around that. So I just didn't write a general travel log. I tried to have something that happened or that I saw or that we saw or some piece of history that was especially interesting that I didn't think people would know about. That's what I would write about.
Wow.
So I do
That's,
it topically.
uh-huh. Yeah. No, topic, yeah, because you have to. You can't, we wanted to do the whole overview of everything and then like the personal view. It's like we just want to write about all of it. You know, I want, I want to know every little thing and you can't.
Well, that's already
That's,
written. That's already
I
written, though,
know. Yeah,
right?
you're right. Exactly. So it's this thing of like, oh man, and it's always changing. You can't go in a park and have the same experience ever. It's always different. Even,
I wrote
you know, museums are like that too. They're always changing, which is good, you know?
I wrote a blog about also in Yellowstone. I promise we went more than there. about all the things we did on a trip to see some wolves. We went where they were. We did it. We talked about where they're going to be. We thought we knew everything, and of course, we didn't see them. And I wrote a blog about that, and actually got nominated for an award, the Lowell Thomas Travel Award. I didn't win it, but I wasn't seeking it. Somebody read it and nominated me. Yeah,
that's cool. So I know your site is not active anymore. Are you writing a book? What's happening with all that you wrote? Like, you've got a treasure chest.
Yeah, well, it's still available. I can activate it anytime I want to. I've written probably 90% of a book, but now it's 10 years old, and the 90% of the work is still there. Of finishing it, get it, have a copywriter take a look at it, all the things that go into writing a book.
It's huge.
And then finding somebody that wants to publish it, which I understand is the biggest part of the job. I wrote a master's thesis in history, and to my mind, it's in. I don't know how many people have seen it because it's stored in the University of Arkansas library. But I'm satisfied just knowing that I did it. To the degree that I got a degree from it.
That's pretty amazing. So was it just like you did it on history itself, or like a specific, like when
I did it
history
on
is huge.
I did it on the. So I have a master's in history. I did it on medical practices and beliefs in the 19th century.
Oh my gosh!
Primarily about smallpox and vaccination. And they had the same vaccination fight that we had a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh.
Same thing was going on.
I'm going to send you a link to a podcast we did with an archaeologist, a medical archaeologist. And he went all through Africa. And we were just, it's interesting because of because it goes into belief systems and resources and it's fascinating. Let's just put it that way. But our parks, bleeding from what you wrote about, right, in your thesis, our parks hold that kind of history. And I think the National Park Service does such a good job of, like you say about doing your park check, is about the topic, right? But you go in the national parks, they have the the actual human history of our country in there, in these right. Parks, their visitor centers, their archives. And we work with the National Parks Arts Foundation. So artists and writers and musicians and anybody in the arts can apply to be an artist in residence for a month. And they get into the archives, like read diaries and stuff. I would go down a rabbit hole there big time. I mean, really, it's awesome. And that's the thing though. They interpret this human history in just, this is the facts, ma'am, only the facts, ma'am. You know what I mean? Without it being opinionated. And I think they get scrutiny sometimes on it, but I think they do a really good job. I think all of our park systems, state parks, generalizing on this, right? Because they have to interpret this, and this is what happened at that time. And our parks have they have a huge history about the health of our country, about people getting wiped out. I mean, have you been to Gettysburg and places like that where
yes.
you have unmarked graves, and they had a measles outbreak there. There's just so much, that our human folk have gone through, of all different, race and genders and all of that. I mean, it's pretty amazing when you go to these park units and really witness. You can read it in a book, but when you get there, and that's what books are supposed to do, is to get you there, right? It just blows my mind how our parks do it. Yeah, it is, right?
That's why you do it. That's why you do stuff like
I want everybody. I'm like, when I went here, I want you all to see it now. Yeah. But it's amazing. And you're still doing park checks. So you're in. You're totally in to the parks. Like that's it. You're in.
We've done it more than 10 years. We only missed 3 times
Wow. Wow.
continuously for 10 years. 3 times we
Wow.
missed.
Wow. I know that you also worked in RVs, so everyone hit him up on Twitter or X, excuse me, for RV advice.
Yes.
I'm just messing with you, but X, I gotta say X, I gotta get into that. But I do want to say, okay, so you're almost there at the 63rd, but you've been to 22 countries and 30 national parks overseas. So are you like, what is your goal now? Like, what is on your horizon that you want to have happen in the next 5 years or so? Not 59 weeks. That's not, I don't even want to talk about like, it's just like, what do you want from now on in regards to travel and parks? What are your goals?
Well, Lisa, I'm 67 years old, and it's
Young,
kind of a
young.
tick-tock thing. So, my wife's heritage is Norwegian, and probably 30 years
Mm,
ago, she said, "I really want to go to Norway sometime." Well, I'm that bill comes due this year, so
nice.
I'd like to see to be healthy enough to see some of the places like that have kind of been on our list for travel that we haven't been able to do. But I'm also just as happy to continue to go to state parks here in Oklahoma.
Mm,
There's one 2 miles from where I live. I play golf there, and see the places yet in the United States that I haven't seen.
mm.
And in Canada's
Oh, I
take your whole
know.
life, take your whole life
Yeah.
to see Canada.
And Mexico too. We've done some parks in Mexico when we lived there, but I can't even tell you where they were. And I got myself in trouble. I was driving a Toyota Corolla through the Baja 500 race park. Anyway, after it flooded, we got ourselves in trouble. I saw more rattlesnakes in that day than I've seen ever. I mean, they had a fire and a flood after that, and we didn't know where we were going. The maps, and this is pre-Google, I think. Yeah. I didn't even have a phone. Yeah, this is way. And some guys were out tagging the course because I don't, everyone Googled Baja 500, and I basically did it, but in a Corolla. Just completely naive, which is pretty much how I like to travel. It's just like, what's going to happen? And it had flooded, so it was a beautiful day, and though there were all these cattle and succulent, like all these cactus and everything, but there was like one rattlesnake after the other, like
Really?
literally hitting the car. I'm not messing with you. It was like snakes on the plane kind of feeling. And
Uh
then
huh.
all of a sudden we found this little place that had little chalets and like a little campground. So we drove in and it closed the gate behind us and it was all lush and beautiful because we were looking for what was called Lake Hansen. And this couple came out and they were speaking, Spanish or Mexican. And we were just fresh out of Africa still. We hadn't a clue what was going on. And so they were trying to tell us, oh, you can stay here. And all I could say to them was like, no carne, because I knew that carne meant meat. That was all I knew. I had no clue. And I had no idea what we were doing. But eventually we got out and left and we ended up on some road. That wasn't how we got in. And it was just dirt roads in the middle of nowhere. And I had to go with my own internal compass. And some guys that were tagging the course stopped and said, you've got two ladies and my grandparents in the back seat, my mom and I. And they're like, are you okay? Are you lost? And of course I just turn and go, no. See, when they say about men never asking directions? Well, apparently I went male and I'm like, no, we're just fine. We're going back to Ensenada. We were living south of Ensenada and he was all talked to his friend on the walkie-talkie and goes, I found these two chicks, man, driving through. They're either like really dumb or they know what they're doing. And I'm like, I don't know. I think we're on the dumb side. But we got out. It was fine. It was beautiful. We had a good trip and a fun story. And I did the Baja 500 course. That's all, or whatever I did
Wow.
of it. But you're
Hmm.
not supposed to drive cars on that. And that's why we don't drive an RV. But I am kind of looking at those vans, man. Those vans kind of look pretty cool, you know.
The van
But
life, yeah.
yeah,
As long as
but
you have
I
a deep
want,
have a deep pocket.
Yes, and I want a raised wheelbase. I've learned we need a raised wheelbase for wherever we go.
Yep. Well,
You
they
know,
have them.
I need that more than I need four-wheel drive because I know how to get myself out of things and I get myself into things quite a bit. Um, because you're always in a new place, and GPS is not the world's best travel buddy in some of these places. Um,
Correct. Don't I
but you
know
just
it?
have, yeah, and you get somewhere and you're like, oh, you're going to reverse down this mountainside. Oh, really? That's nice
Uh-huh.
because,
Uh-huh.
it's already been flooded. I've had that, but I'm excited about your travels and that you're still traveling. So you got to come back on. You got to have more park chats. Let's do that. Let's do more. Come back and have some follow-ups on your travels this year. 'Cause it sounds like you've got a lot going on. I mean, Norway.
Well, we're going to, it's a cruise. We're going to Norway, Scotland, and Iceland.
Oh, they didn't include the Shetland Islands. Oh yeah, that's part of it. The Shetland Islands.
Shetland Islands, right.
Yeah, I know that cruise.
Shetland
One of our
Islands, yeah.
travel writers did that. I'll send you a link to that. It's cool. That's
Please do.
epic. That is epic. What you're doing is epic. Epic, epic, epic. You're gonna love
And
it.
we've been to Iceland. We've been to Iceland before. It's
Okay, cool. So
unbelievable.
you ate that bread that they cook on the geothermal heat or whatever. That
Yeah,
dark bread.
yeah.
Cool.
Uh-huh.
See, that's cool. And Oklahoma. So we went to Chickasaw National Recreation Area, I
Yeah,
think. Is that it? That's cool. We never saw the buffalo there, or the bison, sorry,
yeah.
the bison, but we saw
That's
them in,
that's south of Norman, Oklahoma. Uh-huh.
yeah, we did,
Used to be a national park, actually.
oh,
It
really?
started as a national park, yeah. They changed
Oh,
it.
wow. And then we went to Eufaula. There's that huge lake out there. I swear we saw
Uh,
snakes in that water. I swear. There were
yes,
things.
Lake Eufaula.
Would
Hmm.
there be snakes in that water? I swear we
Of
saw
course.
them on. Yeah, you guys have a lot of snakes, don't you?
We do. We do. And we live
Did
on Brand Lake,
okay.
Oklahoma,
Ooh,
where there's
okay.
also lots of snakes.
How far are you? Is it Washita or Wichita? The National Wildlife Refuge out there. The mountains,
Uh,
Washita Mountains, Washita Mountain, Washita.
Washita,
Yeah,
Washita, as it's pronounced. We're about 4 hours from there.
we went there. I want to go back
We've been there
there. I
before
liked
a
it.
few
It's
times.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And then we did I'm going to really get mad we went to Honey Springs Battlefield. That's intense. That's some crazy history, Civil War history, but there's a park that we went to. Oh, it was like a Native American memorial almost. There's a garden. It was during COVID, so I don't think we could go in the visitor center at the time. And I'm going to be mad. I have to go back in my notes on that. I just remember there were like peace flags and it was really deep. It was deep history because you guys have had some insane history in Oklahoma. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, it's deep and
Not to mention
diverse.
the Oklahoma City Memorial.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, I haven't done that, but we've done some podcasts on it, and another travel writer's also done that. But that's insane too. That's crazy
It,
history.
if you get a
Oof.
chance, you'll never forget going there.
It's sad. One
It is
person,
incredibly sad.
well, more than
Yeah,
one person. Two,
but
two.
yeah,
Yeah,
two. But one person did the whole job. Yeah,
that's a really
yeah. But
good
see,
example of extremism that what can happen. And then I think about
right,
DC, what our National Park Service goes through in DC. They get forgotten off of all of these things, like when we had, you know, the takeover of and everything, the insurrection. It's all still national park territory in a way, right? Like what was going on. I'm like, that's kind of NPS is involved, not just our police and everything. We got to think our National Park Service is all around there, you know?
right.
And yeah, it's kind of wild, but thank you so much, Don.
That
Also, give everyone a shout out again for Park Chat so they can follow you on X, Mark X, and Instagram is at 59 National Parks and
yes,
also on X and the number 59. But again, the times for everybody. So it's every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Is that right?
Yes. Lasts for an hour. Come have some fun. Come learn something. Come make a friend. When that
I love
happens
it.
every week, we have 75 to 100 people who attend routinely. And we know because we paid for analysis metrics before. Routinely, our chat, the park chat hashtag, is usually seen by at least 1 million people on X every time we do it. The record that I know of, because we don't buy the analytics anymore, the record was 12 million.
That's amazing.
So it gets out there. Yep.
That's awesome.
The park chat is used by people, that hashtag is used by people who have no idea what the chat is.
Oh.
We're talking about a park to somebody and used it. So no, it's very successful. People ask me how long I'm going to stay, and I told them I'd do it for 25 years, God willing.
Keep going, man. Keep going. It's a good hobby, and it's not even a hobby. It's a passion, right? It's
a hobby. It really is.
But it's a way of life.
We've never monetized it to any degree. And we just have a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, I'll be more involved soon, so can't wait for that. And apparently we said that we're going to do it when we're going to be in July, that we're going to do it when we are back in Tucson outside Saguaro National Park. So I'm excited about that. So I've got to hone up on these chat skills, and I have you down that we're supposed to do the 24th of July. 9 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be 6 p.m. Arizona time. And we'll be there with saguaro cactus in our face, like as we do it.
Good.
And it'll be, the sunset will be perfect. And it'll be, well, it comes down a little later. But Saguaro National Park is, again, when you talk about parks becoming a national park, that also has an incredible backstory too. So we just have to pick a theme, don't we? Did you have a theme?
Pick a theme.
All right, I'll pick a theme. I will. Oh boy, that's hell for me, because there's just so many themes. That's the problem. I could. You're
gonna have to focus.
Don.
Told you, I was a school teacher. You're gonna have to focus.
See. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put all the topics together, and then I'm gonna put them in a brown paper bag and pick one out that way. Seriously.
There you go.
That's what I'll do, because I have had, like, if I could have 20 million magazines, I would, just because I'm so interested in everything. And so, some people think that's wrong, but I don't think so. I think you should be interested in everything that happens. Like, I could do a one just on reptiles. How about that? Let's just do reptiles.
I don't think we've ever done reptiles.
Reptiles and amphibians. We have to put those two together, because they're reptiles. All right, let's just do it. Reptiles and did we just do it? Did we just pick it? Okay, I'm writing it right now.
I think reptiles.
We did. Oh, because we can talk about crocodiles and alligators in the Everglades. We can talk about snakes, which I can talk about snakes till the cows come home, because I should be dead. But we're going to do reptiles and amphibians
in the parks.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome. Awesome. All right. Not that I just tell everybody how not to get bitten. Now it's done. All right.
Now you're focused. If you become unfocused, I'll call you out.
I know you will. I'll be very good.
I was a teacher.
Yep, I know. Well, you got me focused. Look how well you did. Boom. And, the podcast I just recorded before you was with a psychologist. So now I'm set for the rest of the night or the week. I'm settled. Thanks so much, Don. Take care, and we'll talk soon. We'll chat out on X, everyone, again, at 59 National Parks, both on X and Instagram. Thanks so much, Don.
Thank you, Lisa. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Parks and Travel podcast. Visit nationalparktraveling.com to plan your next park adventure and to see our Parks and Travel digital magazine. You can keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.